Okay, so now we can do task 2. And task 2, it says, using the estimate from task 1, check if the components required are in stock. So we're going to have to store that data. If all of the components are in stock, then update the stock levels, add the unique estimate number to the list of order numbers, add the customer's details and today's date to the estimate details to finalise the order. Print 2 copies of the order, one for the customer and one for the shop. So there's a few things here that we need to do. Let's list these out. That's probably the easiest way. So the first thing we need to do is we need to check if all items are in stock. If they are in stock, we're going to basically create an order. That's what we're doing, using the estimate number. And also, what are we going to do? We are going to update the stock levels if they're all in stock. So we're going to create an order. We're also going to update the stock levels. And what else are we going to do? We are going to get the customer's details and today's date. So get customer details, today's date, and I'm going to add all that to the order. And we need to think about how we're going to store this data actually. We need to print 2 copies of the order. That's quite easy to do. Print 2 copies. One for the customer, one for the shop. So really the key thing here is it's quite fairly simple stuff we need to do, but we need to think about the data that we need to store. So the first thing we need to store is we need to store how many items are in stock for each item. So we need to create variables for all of those components and store how many are in stock. And then we need to check to see if what the customer's ordered, which we've already got here, we need to see if those items are in stock, and if they are all in stock, then we can place the order. And I think, keeping the orders, storing the orders, I think we're going to have to use an array for that, because we're going to have to store quite a lot of different data. We're going to have to store not only what the customer's picked, but the price and their details. And we can do that in a string and keep it in an array. So the first thing we need to do then, if we could do these one by one, is check to see if all items are in stock. So we need to create the stock item. So we've got the price of the components, but we can actually also add the number of items in stock. And if we do it all together, that's probably easier. So I'm going to say P3 stock, and I'm going to have some items in stock here. P5 stock and P7 stock. Then the same for the RAM. We can't start variables with a number, so I'm going to say RAM 16 stock is going to be, I'm going to have any of those in stock, so we can use that as our test to see if when we actually do want some things in stock, to be out of stock rather, whether or not they're there or not. So we can do storage 1 TB stock equals 6, storage 2 TB stock equals 5, and the screens, screen 19 stock equals 12, screen 23 stock equals 13, case mini, actually I can call mini stock, case midi equals 12, okay, so we've got stock items for all of those, and I've got RAM 16 out of stock so that we can test to see whether or not that works correctly. So now we've got our data stored, what we need to do is we need to check to see if all the items that they've selected are in stock. So we're going to have an if statement, obviously, but this time what we need to do, we need to check every single item. We need to check everything, every processor, every RAM, etc. So what we can do is we can say if the customer processor and the customer processor is equal to P3, then we're going to check the stock for the P3 processor. And we can say if the, let's get the name of this, where is it? If the P3 stock is greater than 0, that's what we're basically going to say. If P3 stock is greater than 0, then we're okay. We were in stock. Okay. Now, the way that we can do this, because basically we've got to check all of these items, what we can do is use a Boolean variable. This is a perfect scenario for a Boolean variable. So we can create a variable called all in stock, and we're going to set that to be equal to false. And actually, I'm going to set that to be equal to true. Actually, we're going to take the optimistic view. So if the P3 stock is equal to 0, then we're going to set that all in stock to be equal to false. And we can check all of the items then. So we can say if the customer processor is equal to P5, then if P3 stock, I think that was a capital P actually, wasn't it? No, it's lowercase, I'm wrong, sorry, it's lowercase. So if the P5 stock is equal to 0, then all in stock is going to be equal to false, etc. Now this is going to take quite a lot of coding. What we could do, we could have this separate, but we could also, if we wanted to, add this in to the code here, so that every time they select something and they generate the cost, it checks to see if the item's in stock. So you could add here, check to see if the item's in stock and it's out of stock, and then, at the end, see whether or not that's the case. And actually, I'm going to do that, actually. I'm going to stop doing this separate if statement, and you've probably coded this along with me, but that's okay. I want you to try and see that there's often alternatives, and that you might start coding something and then decide, actually, I'm not going to do this. So I'm going to take this here, this code here, and I'm going to put it up where my P3 code is and add it in. And I need to create my variable, my all in stock variable, and set it to be equal to true at the top as well. So this way it kind of saves a lot of execution of code. And every time you have an if statement in your code, it slows your computer down. There's quite a lot of work they need to do. So if we can reduce that, because we're checking to see what they've selected, we're going to basically cut out a lot of code and make the code faster. I mean, obviously, it's not going to make a massive amount of difference for a program this size, but it shows you if you were writing lots of code and you're writing something that's going to be used and it's time critical, then you can save time by cutting back and doing what you can in different places. So basically, yeah, we're going to add in our coding to check the stock here, and obviously we're just going to change these each time depending on which it is. And we can say whether or not anything's in stock. You can add different types of printouts to say what's in stock and what isn't. Then we can do the RAM, so we can say if, I just need to get the variable names, RAM16 stock, So there we are. If the RAM 16 stock is equal to 0, then all in stock is false. And the same here, if it's 32. Oh, there we go. So that's 32. All in stock is false. Then it's the storage. So let's just get the storage one TV stock. Okay, and then this is the beauty of Boolean variables. They're great. They can help users to flag up things. It's great. I've added one in here already. I don't know how I added that one in. I must have added it in the wrong place. So we've done the storage. Now we're going to do the screen. We've still got the case. Oh look, I've got case MIDI there. That needs to be MIDI stock. I've added got some errors in there. So where am I? This is the only problem with this, is it gets really confusing really quickly because there's so much different things with the different components. So we've got, if the screen, let's get the screen 19 stock, there we go. So the screen 19 stock, there we go. So what I'll do actually in a minute, I'll go through this code. I'll just scroll down very slowly so you can copy it, because I realise that this is probably a bit confusing for you. It's confusing for me, so it must be confusing for you. So that's the screen, and then we've got the case, and the case. And then lastly, the USB. So that's the USB stock, and okay, so let's try running this. What we also need to do actually is, right at the end here, is check if we're going to check to see all the items in stock. So we can basically say if all in stock is equal to true, then, so if our flag variable that we started off as true, if it's still true at the end, everything's in stock. Okay, so we're going to print out all items are in stock. So let me just scroll up and down here so you can just check your code again. So we've got the prices and the components that are in stock for the processors, the RAM, the storage, the screen, the case, and the USBs. Pause this as you need to, obviously. We've then got the total price set to 0 and our estimate number equal to 1, and all in stock, which is our flag variable, is equal to true. The user then picks the processor that they want, and if they pick P3, for example, it will add the P3 price onto their the item that they want. And if that is in stock, so if the P3 is in stock, then it will just do nothing. It will just move on to the next line of code. But if it isn't in stock, if it's 0, then we set our flag variable, all in stock, to be equal to false. So if any time there's anything that they've picked that's not in stock, it will set that flag to false. And therefore, we'll know at the end whether or not everything's in stock, and we can update the stock items. So I'm just scrolling down slowly. There's the RAM, and again the RAM is, we're checking to see if it's in stock. 32 is in stock. And then here we've got the storage, check to see if the storage 1 terabyte and then 2 terabytes in stock. Then the screen, and again pause if you need to. And then the case, which is the mini and the MIDI, and that says mini, so that I need to change that to MIDI. And finally the USB 2. So I think there might, I'm just going to check that one there to see if it's a capital M. And it is, yeah, good. Okay, so then later down, this is going to print out what they've selected, and then we're going to check to see if all items are in stock, and if they're not, we're going to say, sorry, some items are not in stock. Now, it doesn't say to print out what isn't in stock. Probably you'd want to do that, but it doesn't say to print out the items that are not in stock. So you could add that in if you wanted to, but I'm not going to do that today. Okay, so that's just part of task 2. So let's just test this and see if that's okay so far. And then we can move on to getting the order created and the customer details added. So let's just test this, and I'm going to select processor, and I'm going to select everything in stock. So I'm going to pick 32, I'm going to pick 1 TB, I'm going to pick 19 mini, oops, capitals, it'll be case sensitive, so, and good. So I've got an error and I've spelt something incorrectly. I've got a name error, it means I've spelt a variable incorrectly. So it's here, I've got a spelling mistake. So let's run that again. And it's going to be a P3, and it's going to be 32, and it's going to be 1 TB, and it's going to be 19, and a mini, and a 2. And I've got another error, all in stock, not known. So let's just check that. All in stock. I've got a capital I. Let me just copy that down here and paste it. There we go. I was using a capital S and I shouldn't have done it. Right, let's try one more time. You can see how it can take time. You need to devote a lot of time to this. So P3. Let's do 32. 1 TB. 19 mini 2. Great, all items in stock. Excellent. Right, so let's just run it one more time, and I'm going to pick the 16 because I know that's out of stock. So P3, I'm going to pick 16 and 1 TB, 19 mini 2. Sorry, some items are not in stock. Good. Now, like I said, in an ideal world, you'd probably tell them what wasn't in stock, because that would be a bit of a nightmare. But so you could add that in if you wanted to. You could just add a nice little if statement, or an error here where we set all in stock to false. We can just say, it's this processor not in stock. I'm not going to do that today, but you can add that in if you want to. Okay, so what do we need to do next? We've done our, we've checked if all items are in stock. Now we need to create an order. So we're going to create an order. If everything is in stock, create an order, and we're basically, to create the order, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a string that is all of the items together and also includes the customer details. So before we add or we create the order, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the user to enter their name and just the email address. I mean, obviously you could get more details than that, you could get their address, etc. But I'm just going to do 2 things. So I'm going to create a name, and I'm going to say input, enter your name, or enter customer name, and then also maybe get their email, input, enter email, and there we go. So we're going to get the customer details. Now we need to get today's date. So to get today's date, what we need to do is we need to import date time basically. So we need to go right to the top of our code and we need to import date time. And that will give us, that will go to our operating system and ask in a moment when we do it here, what the date or the time is. So I'm going to call it now. So I'm going to say datetime dot now, open brackets, close brackets. And that should get us the date and time. So I'm just going to check that actually. And actually, instead of doing it all down that code there, don't do this bit. I'm just going to check. I'm going to run it up here, actually. Just temporarily add this code up the top, just to check to see whether or not that works. So it should give us the date time straight away. Oh, I've got an invalid syntax here. So I'm just going to get rid of that. Let's run that. You don't need to do this, by the way. Let's just check. Yeah, that's done it. Good. So it's given us quite a long date time. That's fine. So it is the 16th of the 12th, 2018 here today. So that's fine. So we can delete that now. It's going to give us quite a lot of seconds and stuff, but it doesn't matter really. Okay, so that gives us the date and the time as a string, and we can create our order. So we can create our order, and it's going to be a string, and our order is going to be the order number or the estimate number. So it's going to be, we need to turn that into a string. So the estimate number, that's going to be our number. Then we do a plus, which actually just means concatenate. It means add strings together. So we're going to add all the items that they've selected. So the customer processor plus, I'm going to add some text there, just a blank space, and the RAM that they've selected, plus a space, plus the storage, plus a space, plus the screen, plus a space, plus the case, plus a space. So this is quite long, as you can see. I think we can go on a separate line with Python. I think we can. Anyway, the screen and lastly the USB. We also probably want to put the price in, so we'll add the price of order. Actually, I'm going to add that at the start actually. So I'm going to add the estimate number, the price of the order, which is total price plus tax. And we need to turn that into a string, otherwise we'll get an error. And what else do we need to do? We need to add in the name and the email of the person. So we'll add that at the beginning as well. So the estimate number, the name of the person, and the email of the person with some, there we go. Okay, so let's just check that. That should be okay. Oh, and the date and the time. So we'll add that in and add now. Okay. So let's just check that. So all of our numbers are being converted into strings using the str. We're adding the estimate number, the name, the email. Now we probably need a space there. The total price plus tax. The customer, put another space there. The customer processor, a space. The customer RAM, a space. The customer storage, a space. Customer screen, a space. Customer case. Oh, I've doubled up there. Double the screen, and that should be USB. It should be USB there. Okay, and we probably don't need the space at the end, so we can get rid of that. So let's test this. and see what's going on here. So I'm just going to pick everything that's in stock, otherwise it's not going to work, and hopefully this will be okay. Yes, good. So Julia, and my email is julia@julia.com. Got an error. Okay, so type error must be str, not datetime.datetime. Okay, so actually that now has created not a string, but it's created a datetime. So when we've got this here, this now, that actually has to be a string. So I'm going to convert that to a string. Okay, let's test that. Hopefully that's going to work. I hope so. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board. Nope, still got an error. And I realise what I've done. Silly me. I changed that, but I didn't change here. It should be now str. Silly me. So that variable there, it shouldn't be now, it should be now str. Let's try that one more time. I'm just going to save you time watching. I'm going to pause it and do it off video. Okay, so I've just run that and that's absolutely fine. So you'll notice as well though, it's printed out the time, but it hasn't printed out the order. And that's the last part of task 2. This is quite a mammoth task, this one. Task 2, it says, add the customer details, which we've done, today's date, which we've done. To finalise the order, print 2 copies of the order, one for the customer and one for the shop. And actually as well, what we need to do is we probably need to save that order in an array. Now it doesn't say that, but I think we're going to need that for task 3. Actually, I'll leave that for task 3. So we need to print the order twice, and obviously there's, that would mimic, having some kind of receipt. So we'll just do a print twice here. So we just need to do print customer copy, and that's the order, and also print shop copy of the order, print it twice. So obviously if it was in the real world, it would go to a printer to print it out properly. So I just realised we have forgotten to do one thing in task 2, and that is to update all of the items in stock. So we need to basically take one away from everything that the customer has chosen, and I've pre-done the code here so that you can just copy it basically. So I'm not going to code this along with you, or rather you're not going to code this along with me. I'm just going to show you here. Here is the code. There's actually quite a lot of it. It goes all the way down here. So you need to enter all this code in, and I'll just scroll up slowly and pause the code. It goes in under where we've created the order, directly under that, and finishes before, obviously indented before for this else here. So enter this in for each stock level if what they've selected, i.e. P3, if the stock level, if they've selected P3, we update the P3 stock -1. If they've selected P5, then we update the P5 stock -1, the P7 stock -1, etc. Then the customer RAM is, if they selected 16, then we reduce the RAM 16 stock by 1, or if they selected 32, we change the 32 by 1, etc. And then the next one here, we've got 1 terabyte for storage. We update the terabyte stock, 2 terabytes, the customer screen, 19 or 23. The case is the mini or the MIDI, and then the USB, we do those as well. So just pause the video there and get all that code down. There's quite a lot of it, I know, but do just copy what I've done, and you'll be fine.